Find yourself a booth, order up a cold one. This is the Spring Bar.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Spring Bar. Glad to have you here. I am Disney World Mike, along with my co-host, Disney World Joe.
Disneyland. I'm Disneyland Joe.
Disneyland. See, I've already messed it up. Disney World Mike. Disney. See, it's because I changed up the introduction. That's
there
why.
it is.
I'll stick with the usual. And we have a special guest.
Introduce myself. I guess I'm Empire State Building Patty.
There you go.
Empire State Building
go.
Patty.
Yeah.
Before we get into the introduction, this is our Bulova episode. Usually we have Michael with us, and as much as he loves to be on and tries to make the different episodes, he's just a busy guy. So in lieu of Michael, we have somebody arguably even better, and that's Patty. And Patty is involved with the marketing and advertising department. So I'll let you introduce yourself. Go ahead and give your official title and just a little bit of your background within the company for us.
Great. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad Michael couldn't make it. A great opportunity for me. So I am Patty Schmoyer, and I am the VP of Marketing for Bulova. And I have been at CWA almost 20 years, actually 20 years this year I've been there. So a very long time, but I've always been in retail. I think I first started selling watches. I was 16. I needed to buy my prom dress. So here I am.
Wow.
A few times more than 16. And I'm just, you've met the rest of the crew. You've met Michael, John, Danelle. It's a real family. So I feel quite fortunate every day, actually. I was going to say most days, but I feel fortunate every day. So that's a little bit of who I am. And yes, we're out of the Empire State Buildings 4 or 5 days a week. Today I am dialing in from northern New Jersey, my home. So
and we appreciate you taking the time out of your Sunday afternoon. You know, we have some kind of off work day recordings, and we know it's kind of hard for people to schedule it in. So we genuinely appreciate having you here. I think it's very important to note that Patty is the reason why we have a relationship with the brand. And this goes back, what is it now? 2 or 3 years, perhaps?
Just about.
I think it's 3 years ago.
Yeah. When we did the charity auction for the World Central Kitchen, Patty, you had reached out and said, I noticed what you guys are doing, because we were auctioning off a lot of Bulova watches, just stuff from our own personal collections. And you said, I see what you guys are doing. We just kind of want to step in and help out, and we'll match your donation up to a certain amount, which we didn't quite reach with the auction, but you guys stepped up and donated that, full commitment amount anyways. And we raised, a decent amount to be able to donate towards that charity. And out of that, just kind of grew the relationship with the brand. You wanted to have kind of a meeting, much like what we're doing now. And Michael had joined us, and things just kind of blossomed from there. And here we are. I think we've had Michael on, close to a dozen times now. We've had different people from different departments, and you're here with us. And I think having you on the show is been long overdue. So it's a genuine pleasure to have you here. We owe all of this to you, genuinely. So.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. I actually was thinking about that just this morning, and I can't help. I was putting on my marketing mind, both my goodwill and my marketing brain together. And I thought, that we did do that a couple years back for the World Kitchen. But I think there's an opportunity. Maybe we need to look at doing that again, and we can discuss that offline. Not that we don't want to include your whole audience in the thought process, but maybe we'll think about it. We can share some ideas afterwards of something we can do to continue that, because it would be good. I think you had a good setup there where there was both a watch product, some archive pieces, and then it really had a great element of giving. So let's
perfect.
We're in. Absolutely.
We're in.
You're in.
For sure.
That's fantastic. Yes.
Well, thank you.
So We generally start the show, and if you've seen the show, which I'm sure you have, we go through real quick of some of the new purchases that we've got. I know, Joe, you don't have anything.
I've got nothing.
Okay,
So
I've got a couple things. I'm just going to brush through here real
Okay.
quick, just so we don't bore Patty too much. First, I have what is this? And we were just having this discussion, Joe, and I have to take my glasses off to read it. This is the 1972. This is the Bulova Sea King. It's hard to see. My camera doesn't really focus very well.
oh yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah. And
this is a cool little watch
it's
because
got
this
that
is my
fluted bezel
first.
too, right?
Yeah, it's got the fluted bezel on a very
Yeah.
much a squirt off cushion case.
Uh-huh.
This is my first whale, and I have wanted a whale dial for so long, and I finally got this one.
Fudgy,
What
not
kind of
trademark.
Fudgy the
You went the
whale
whale.
is? Yeah. That's a Michael term, by the way, Patty.
Fudgy the whale. Does
Fudgy
it
the whale.
have the, and what does the case back look like? Does it have any of the markings?
So this is the reason why I bought this watch was for the case back. It has a very simple 2-line inscription. It says "Love Vera."
Oh,
So this was from Vera to someone for, I'm guessing, a special occasion.
okay.
The watch has survived 52 years and it looks fantastic. And I just felt like I had to buy it to be the caretaker
Mhm.
for whoever owned it, whoever this watch was intended to from Vera. So Vera, I've got your back.
Can I ask, where are you finding your watches? Is it eBay or is it among your circle of?
99.9% of the stuff I buy is from eBay.
Mhm.
And when you get as deeply involved in the collector world as Joe and I have, people do come to us and offer, "Hey, I've got this for sale." So
Yeah,
I've gained things through that. I believe Joe has as well, but
yeah.
majority of stuff that we find is off of eBay.
I see.
The problem that you run into, and I can only speak for myself. I can kind of talk for Mike a little bit. We both have a slight niche in what we collect. I'm collecting 666 dial divers. Mike's collecting jet stars specifically. And so in that particular space, you start to find people reaching out. It's like, oh, well, do you have this, or what do you know about this one, or what about this? What about? And it's like, okay, that's a such and such, and here's my version of it, and or it's like, oh no, I do need that, and then you have that, you start that conversation. But for the things that, like, we're searching for ourselves, it's oftentimes it's just this strange little something. Is like, oh, I think I know what that is, and it pops up, and you're like, okay, yeah, grab that real quick. But you also, you have a good idea. For the two of us, we have a good idea of, like, kind of what the valuation of a lot of the pieces are, and whether or not it's like, okay, I don't think I'm going to be spending $3,500 on a whale, unless, no offense to Vera, unless there's a little bit more specificity that goes with that particular watch.
Right.
But in having done this for as long as we have, Mike's pickup of that watch, he shared pictures with it to me, and it's a fantastic piece. Condition is great. It's working well. The case back inscription makes it definitely more interesting. And it's one, like, I have a few different watches that have inscriptions on the back, and those are always fascinating because now, okay, now I'm the caretaker of this particular legacy.
Yeah.
That while it's lost to antiquity of 20 years ago or whatever, it's still an interesting piece to maintain, and you can share with people. It's like, yeah, but look at the case back. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know, our most expensive piece in our museum has also an engraving. And it is the
yes,
engraving that makes it the most expensive piece. Has an EP.
right,
Mhm.
right.
So
It's that Accutron.
that's right.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
That we
The
purchased.
Elvis Presley Accutron,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
One day we'll make it up there to the museum, and we've
Oh,
been
yeah.
talking about this for years. One day we'll
Yeah.
actually make it. I'm not an Elvis fan, but I feel like that is probably the one watch that I really am excited to see the most.
Mhm.
Is
Mhm.
that one?
Oh, is it? That's for you?
I feel like that's the
Okay.
engraving of all engravings.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got a different one, but that's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
You want to see a different one, Joe?
I do. I want to see it's an automatic, and it's a pin back. And so the automatic winding is from pressure that goes directly onto the
Yeah.
dial I
There
want to
was-
see that one.
original, yes, the push pin
Uh-huh.
automatic, right? I know
Yep.
exactly which one. So
See? I
I
love
know,
having Bulova people on.
yeah. So actually, part of my responsibility is managing the museum. And so by osmosis, I've had to learn a little bit. I think if you both came, I would have to leave you in the room for the whole day because once you open the drawers, we have so
Oh, I
much.
can only imagine.
It
Can
would
only
be a
imagine.
problem. It would
Yeah,
be a real problem. Like you probably have to send a rotation through.
yeah,
We'll buy lunch, but somebody
yeah.
else is.
We
Yeah.
just bring you food in every so often.
Oh yeah, just
Yeah.
yeah. We'll close up when we're done too. It'll be no problem. We can make all that work. Just leave us the keys.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on real quick, new watch number two. So behind me here is my Caravel Tell Time clock. This is the alarm clock version of the watch. Well, right next to it is the watch.
Wow.
I finally got, so I was probably going on 2 years now. For
Yeah.
Christmas, I bought my daughter this watch and gave it to her as her first vintage watch Christmas present. And it's hard to find these ones in good condition because they were meant for children. They never really survived very well. These are chrome-plated cases. They always got pitted, scratched, things like that. This one I found in really good condition. It has the original Caravel stamped strap on it. It is currently a non-runner, but I'm not super concerned because it's more of a display piece just to live next to the clock here. All I need is the instructional record that you were able to purchase when you purchased your watch. And they
It's a
do pop up from
45,
time to
right?
time.
It's a 45.
Yes.
God, that'd be fun.
It came with a record, a 45 record that you would play, and
Yes.
it was
So yeah, and it was an instructional record. I believe KC has one. I think he has a
Oh,
record. I'm not
I think you're
100%
right.
sure.
I think you're right.
And there's another kind of a Caravel Bulova collector, little old watches, and she kind of has some of the same stuff that I do. And I told her about one that was on eBay, and she snagged it up real quick.
Huh.
And now I need it, so I wish I wouldn't have said anything. But yeah, so
It's a really cute because the what on the dial it tells you is like quarter till, half past, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, right? And it breaks down.
It's split in half by purple and orange, AM, PM, and
Yeah.
things like that.
This
So
this is the part where Michael Benevente would say, "Kids nowadays don't know how to tell time."
you know we
Well,
do that because I teach high school and it's been a digital clock forever for most of the career of all of my students, and they have no idea how to tell the time. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
And so like I will tell them like, okay, we're gonna do something. I need you back here in at this time, and nobody's got to watch.
Mhm.
So I have to get make sure that my student leaders like, okay, here's a watch, here's how it works, here's how you tell time.
Yeah.
Be back at this time, and if you're not, I'm going to make you run until I get tired.
when the big hand hits the 8, you guys
Right.
better be back in class. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Yeah. Uh, moving on, Joe, you're already drinking, so why don't you lead us off? Rich and drinks. What are you wearing? What are you
Oh
drinking?
well, sir. Speaking of whales, I have on my Sea King.
Oh yeah, look at that with the
Uh-huh.
pumpkin loom.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
it.
this is the thing that this watch, it sneaks up on me every time I get it. It is so darn thin, and it wears so amazingly well. It's actually got, because I had to do a bit of a dive into this. It has a high torque movement, which is the same movement as what was in the Braille that I did not cannibalize to put
Same
into
movement that's in my Braille. Thank
your
you very
Braille.
much.
Well, mine's
Yes.
the automatic. This
Yours
is
is
hand
different.
wound. No seconds hand.
Oh, that's a hand wound. Oh, so that's different because mine's the automatic as well.
Right. And so it's a fantastic little watch. Got on a really jangly kind of hear it, really vintage steel bracelet, and I absolutely love this watch. It's wonderful. And in the glass is an interpretation of a Montreal, which is a bourbon and Fernet cocktail, because I got nothing else to do today. So that's what I'm going to be doing, is finishing this and talking Bulova watches.
There you go. Patty? I hope you're wearing something.
I am.
Okay.
Since I think I am the first lady on the show, so I thought I should show up with two watches. Um,
Fantastic.
two wrists, two watches. So the first one I'm wearing is my favorite one is the Rubia. And
Oh,
I love the Rubia because, and I don't know if your audience knows this, but really it was modeled after the original Rubiats that were introduced um, in the 19, I really would say around 1917. Made that was really when Joseph Bulova made the first line of ladies' watches. Prior to that, there were single watches being sold, but he was the first one that said, hey, there's a real business here. Women may want to tell time. So, with pocket watches and started to MacGyver them and put straps on them and made a full line of ladies' watches. And so now, how many years later, almost 100 years later, we've come out different case size, of course, but we took some inspiration. The crowns at the 12 o'clock marker because as pocket watches were made at the time, they just got the strap and it had the crown on the top. So that's the Rubia. Behind that, you can't see it, but it has like a goddess of time, just to really,
Oh, wow. I never knew that.
it's beautiful. Yeah,
yeah.
and we have always, Bulba loves to do this stuff where we have these beautiful case backs that nobody gets a chance to see, but the
Ever.
owner feels that they're special, right? So this is probably the watch I wear the most. So this is my Rubia. Some diamonds, a little blink without being overly done. And then
Hmm.
my other watch that I wanted to make sure I bring is a sign. So to most people, they say,
Okay.
okay, big deal. But here's the big deal for me. It's an automatic, and many ladies' watches are not.
Nowhere
Hmm.
close.
Yeah.
And it's not a crazy price point. Has a little bit of mother of pearl, a little bit of diamond, and then you could see a little bit. It has the opening, so that you
The
could see
open heart. Yeah.
the open heart, so you could see the automatic without it being overly done. So I think it's very well done. I like it because it's an automatic, and you don't get it. I love the Rubia, but it's a quartz, and this is my own. So each one of them is I love them both, each for their own reason, and I wanted to bring them both to your show. And what am I
Very.
drinking? Well, I don't
Yeah.
usually drink. I like to consume my calories in chocolate, but I thought since I was here, I'd bring something sparkling. Uh,
Perfect.
so that's what I'm doing. So I keep
That is
my act together the rest of the show.
a
Well, we'll
that's
see. If
right
you
up Joe's
refill,
alley.
we know
Yep.
we've done a good job.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Well, I'll bring up the rear.
Yeah.
I'm just very basic. I'm drinking a Corona today, Corona Extra. And
Mm,
here's the reason why I have this. Generally, I stick with the craft beers. I like the wheats,
yeah.
I like the flavors. I took my daughter for a daddy-daughter date. We went to dinner. She wanted to go to a Mexican restaurant, and generally Mexican restaurants don't have a lot in the way of craft beers. And I said, you know what? I'll just have a Corona. I haven't had one in probably a couple of years now, and it was the best beer I've had in a while. So I had to go out and buy some, and that's I got it in a frosty glass right now. So I'm enjoying my nice ice cold Corona.
Enjoy it.
What's on the wrist?
All right. I have to caveat my wrist check here.
Ooh, watch out.
Joseph, I need you to obey your language because there is a lady present.
All right.
I'm ready.
On my wrist is the Bulova Hoyer Octavia. This is too many the Bulova to end all Bulovas. This is a grail for so many people. This, for all intents and purposes, is a Hoyer Octavia 1163. It has all the Hoyer markings still. It has a serial number between the lugs, the model number between the lugs at the 6 o'clock. Inside the case back, it is actually stamped Hoyer Leonidas, which has been crossed out, and Bulova engraved above that, which is just absolutely fantastic. This is Hoyer through and through. It is a Bulova dial, Bulova hands. This is a real piece of history right here. Now, unfortunately, this is not my watch. this watch belongs to the Mystery Collection, which you've all heard me talk about before. This is a collection of which I am the current caretaker for. When a lot of these pieces are purchased, they come to me for safekeeping. Some of them need to be restored. Others are waiting to go out for service. So that is why I have this piece. And the collector and I thought it would be a nice touch to put a black rally strap, as many of these Octavias came. But we also bought, and it's hard to see on my camera here, but it's a Schmoyer buckle.
Yep,
Just
you can
to
see it.
remind everybody that this is a Schmoyer through and through.
Mhm.
Now, Joe has shrunken down in his seat, and
Yeah.
he is trying his best not to say anything, because this is Joe's Grail watch.
Ah,
This is the one watch Joe always talks about that he wishes he could have. And it is, to my understanding, Joe, that this will get sent out to you, because
Don't do it.
we both know.
Don't do it. Don't send it here. Don't send it here. You'll have to pry it off of my cold dead wrist. Don't do it.
It is a good watch. It is a chunky watch. When you wear this, you feel something special on the wrist.
I'm gonna
It's
have to
got-
mute you. I can't even listen to this.
This is the Schmoyer caliber 15. This is kind of the
Right.
asymmetrical dial. The second
Left-hand
hand is
drive.
off up into the left corner, left-hand drive. Yeah.
Is it automatic also, or is it hand wound?
This is the micro rotor. This is the Burn micro rotor caliber 15, Schmoyer
I'm
15.
gonna have to get another drink. God.
So I am, and if it wasn't for the Mystery Collector and the Mystery Collection, I myself, and that's what's in the box behind me here is a series of, this is the surfboard. This is a near perfect deep sea chronograph. We have another Schmoyer caliber 12, Oceanographer V. I mean, if it wasn't for, this arrangement, I wouldn't even get to experience some of these watches. I mean, the prices on a lot of these are just astronomical. But
Outside of our realm.
So you have-
yeah,
Mystery collector group that you guys. Okay.
no, this is one collector in particular. He has the greatest, and arguably in size would probably rival what the museum has.
It's probably close.
It's one of the greatest private Bulova collections that nobody knows exists.
Wow.
I was trying to explain it. I was talking with a dealer and a collector that I know on Friday, and I was trying to explain what we're talking about. He has decided to kind of focus on 20s and 30s Art Deco Bulova watches. And every so often, like, something will pop up, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, do you know this one?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, I know that one. That's a such and such. And here are the 4 others of that I have with dial variants and case variants and everything." And he has what are their 24 slot watch boxes, right? And how many? 30 of those, maybe 20 of them.
Oh, there's more than that. Yeah,
It's
he's in the thousands.
It's nuts.
Wow.
He's got
And it's a lot of Art Deco stuff, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Right now he's focusing on the 70s chronographs. So by the time this episode comes out, it will probably be announced anyways on social media. He just picked up a Stars and Stripes chronograph.
The chronograph C.
Yep, the chronograph C. So he has 2 more to go to complete the 70s chronographs. He just bought a orange Sky Star, which is the world timer.
Right.
So now he has all 3 color variants of those.
The white, the black, and the orange.
Yeah.
The bezels are all really good. The bezels on those fade something horrible, and the bezels are in pretty nice shape.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic
So-
to hear about someone's passion like that.
He doesn't
It's a
document any
problem,
of
Patty.
it.
It's a real problem because
Yeah.
because
Love
all
it.
of these things they start cycling through, and he doesn't. It's not quite the Hermit Kingdom, but it's close. It's like, if it wasn't for Mike, none of this would we wouldn't know. We would know because he doesn't publicize it very much.
He doesn't. Yeah, he's real to himself, real quiet about everything. But
Yeah.
in through a lot of conversations that we've had with him, he realizes that a lot of the stuff that he has is special and is a lot of the things that people haven't seen. So I know he's been working on for the last couple of weeks now, putting together a package that'll come this way, and it's going to have a lot of things that he wants to be shown and that he knows people would be excited about. So
right. I mean, we know about many collectors, right? And we love working with a lot of collectors because that's what makes us special, right? That we do have this heritage about our brand, and sometimes we just have it as part of the museum. Sometimes we can make tweaks and reintroduce new watches, but we always feel like it's such an honor to have this history. So getting to know collectors, and when collectors bring new information to us, that's really important. We never act like we have the full information, because every time I meet a new collector, I find out more and more information. I find out maybe we were wrong about something, maybe we never knew about something. So when we have a brand that's been around 150 years and documentation is not always perfect, and the brand has been turned over, had several owners, things have gotten lost. So we are really quite purposeful about documenting everything. So I always love to hear from different collectors and love it when they share and they become part of our community. Obviously, there's a collector we have not heard about, or we don't know, we don't personally know. But if he ever wants to come out and get to know us, we'd love to get to know him. It would be great sharing of information.
Yeah,
that
well,
would be a trip and a
he's
half,
an avid
man.
listener of the show too. So
Yeah.
There you go.
And every time
been extended, Mr.
Every
Mr.
time we
Collector.
talk about him, he always messages me like, "Oh, you guys talked about me."
Yeah,
So,
yeah, invitation's
yeah.
been extended, so love to, and I understand, I respect his privacy, but love to see what he has, because it's, it's whether it's obviously everybody knows the story about the lunar pilot. That's something that we did not know about, and it came out, and then it was great. The mill ships was also a watch that we did not know about and was introduced to us, and then we later came out, and I think there's some more thoughts about it going forward in the future. So there are watches that we find out. Then there's watches such as the Jetstar, which we knew existed, but then we started to think about it, and I started seeing some of the posting that you guys were doing on your Instagram, and that piqued our interest again. So there's ideas come from different places, and in some places we really respect their original, like the mill ship. Sometimes, I know you guys have discussed it in the past on this podcast, we take a little bit of a detour from the original, like we did with the Jetstar. But always love hearing about our history. And
Yeah, and Bulova has such a rich history that in Joe and I also never claim to know everything about it. You can't, because there's always something that we're each learning that's new. Today, you showed the case back of your ruby. I had no clue that you guys were still using the Goddess of Time. So that's something that I learned
on the Rubaiyat. Yeah, absolutely.
Goddess of Time. It doesn't matter what price point, they all have that Goddess of Time,
and
it's well imprinted. It's not just some cheap imprint. It's beautifully done.
Yeah, it's incredibly nice. It's really that's kind of leads us right into our first bit of topic, which is talking marketing and advertising.
Okay.
Talk about a rich history. Yeah,
that's you, right? That's your job.
Has a rich history in marketing and advertising.
That is me. I know you guys are usually here talking about watches and how important watches are, and I'm sure they're all very important. But I'd like to think that marketing is very important, and watches wouldn't get sold without marketing. So I think for the group, whoever's listening here, I don't know if they know the story about Bulova and their advertising. And I think a lot of modern day advertising does exist because of Joseph and Artie Bulova. First, and anytime people come to the museum or talk to me, they're always quite shocked to hear that we were the first ones to have a radio commercial as early as 1926. Actually, there's a little bit of a speculation whether we were the first, but I believe we were the first to have the radio commercial. I think something else might have aired in Germany, but 1926, we were the first ones to do a radio commercial. And many of your listeners probably know the jingle, the Bulova, Bulova watch time. And that was pretty important because, when you weren't watching something and you were just listening, it helped you visualize. So that that spelling out of the name helped that listener really visualize the name and kind of sink in. As you know, with your high school students, sometimes you need to do extra tricks to help things stick in the memory. So from that, in 1926, first, and even early on with Joseph Bulova had his first store, Maiden Lane, which is down by the financial area of Manhattan, so near the seaport. He started running newspaper ads, weekly newspaper ads. So he was trying to get real gimmicky. Maybe he put a clipper ship to kind of tell people where he was located, down by the seaport. So these are things that we think of big deal, but this was really very novel for somebody at the time. And then in 1941, the first ever, and there's no dispute about this, first ever TV commercial was a Bulova TV commercial. And you always, people are like, what do you mean? It wasn't like a P&G brand or something like that. No, it was Bulova. We were the first ones, and for $9, and that included both production and TV time.
Wow.
$9 was I think it was a 10-second spot. No, I'm not quite sure how long the spot was, but it was during a baseball game, a Dodgers and Philly baseball game, that it aired, and it was so successful that then the Bulova continued to buy more TV spots, and then that was pretty much the start of Bulova, all TV advertising. It was very simplistic at the time, and just had a simple screen, no movement, with hands, watch hands. So a test pattern with watch hands. So it was very simplistic, and as things got more complicated.
Gosh,
So,
I can sprout off of that alone in so many different directions right now.
well, let's talk about, so the advertisements themselves. Was that something that Joseph and Artie decided to do? Did they hire somebody to bring that in? Where was the impetus behind that?
So
Because it's fantastic.
So some of it was them themselves. I mean, in a sense, at the time, it was a little bit of the Wild West of advertising. This is even pre-Mad Men, right? And even Mad Men things were a bit of the Wild West. And they wanted to test, and there was, I think, they did have an ad agency by the time they got into the TV part of it. I believe the ad agency, Milton Burrow was the name of the ad agency. There is even a book that he wrote, and he was early days advertising, this gentleman. So he wrote a book, and he was at the time the leading expert in advertising. These are really very beginning days. So you have Bulova, who just was starting out, but already started to have a name as well known as today when we talk about Coca-Cola or Pepsi. Everybody really knew the Bulova name. So now you had the radio advertising, which became so popular. Then he realized the use of celebrities, right? He was one of the first ones. Whether he has a watch that is waterproof, he needs to advertise the watch that's waterproof. He realizes he needs an ambassador. Now he gets an Olympic swimmer who was also the guy who played Tarzan, Johnny Weissmuller. He gets him to be the ambassador, right? So if you think of marketing, you got the radio, you have TV, you have ambassadors. I mean, he was writing the book as he was going along. Both initially Joseph and then Artie. These are not guys that were not educated in the world of advertising, but they were very clever. And it was a time where there was not much holding them back, right? Things were less expensive. Even that $9 spot that we talked about before, it was production and TV, and that airtime adjusted to today's dollars. I think it was $4 production and maybe $5 with airtime. Adjusted to today's dollars, that's $150.
It's nuts. It's ridiculous in terms of what it is. But like when you're the trailblazer,
there's no path in front of you to say this is what it should be. This is how much a Super Bowl ad would be, right?
Right.
There's nothing. So you call the shots. And he did until somebody caught up with it. And probably, I don't know how long he was able to continue doing that until, it caught up with him. And then dollars, they realized the value of it was not $150 a spot.
That's nuts. That's amazing.
Nuts. A couple other things I think, and when I think back and I think of the footsteps, what I'm stepping into, and I'm really quite proud of some of the things he did. I think of Charles Lindbergh.
Yeah.
Charles Lindbergh, right? 1927 was when he did his flight. And we did not have him. He was not our ambassador, but Artie Bulova decides to decides to give them a watch and give him a cash prize. Why?
Right.
Because he was clever about it. Because what happens is Lindbergh sends him a note to thank him for the watch. Says that, and we actually have a copy of that note in our museum. And he sends a very nice note saying, "Thank you very much. This watch is," I think it was, he said something about lovely. I don't know, 1927 talk, right? We wouldn't say a watch is lovely nowadays. But either way, once the Bulovas get the copy of the letter, they make copies of it and they included it in every watch that gets sold of that type.
Yeah, that lone eagle, that first lone eagle.
The lone eagle,
right.
yeah.
So it's as if he was a paid ambassador,
right?
But he was not, right? And there was no such thing as being sued for doing that. That you couldn't do that in today's term.
I mean, that idea of being the wild, wild west, it's really an apt discussion because the rules had yet to be written. Everything about it was so fantastic. So when you're thinking about watches, when you're thinking about who's the watch for, what are you in terms of like audience?
Well, so yeah, so I think things are watches. Advertising watches is a little bit more complicated than advertising this, let's say a sweater. I mean, watches can be either purchased for yourself or purchased as a gift. So who am I advertising to? Am I advertising to the mom for Mother's Day, or am I advertising to the kids or the husband? Right? So that's a conversation that we always have internally. Who are we targeting this advertisement to? And then, we can cut it up a million different ways when we decide who's our audience, even beyond that. Let's say you're purchasing the watch for yourself. Well, if I think back 15 years ago, we would get our advertising dollars, and let's say you have $100, and that's all I had for the year. I would spend it in one place. And I would spend it on TV, do a TV ad, and you call it a day. My job was much easier 15 years ago. Nowadays, it's not. It's much more complicated, right? We have now, I guess the word that everybody likes to use is data driven, right? Right. All our advertising is data driven, and there's all kinds of things. Whether we're talking about influencers or social media. Whether affiliate advertising, we'll talk about things going viral, right? But all of those things have to do with the digital space, and everybody says, oh, it's data driven and data driven, and so with it comes a lot more work, a lot more questions, a lot more answers too, right? So when I got that $100, if I used to spend it all on a TV ad, some of us saw the ad. If the CEO saw the ad, and the CEO of possibly your top jeweler saw the ad, everybody went home feeling really good about it. That's great. Now it's not like that. Now you expect a lot more. I hope my CEO sees the ad, but I need also all my consumers to see the ad. And if they don't, I will know about it, right? It's more accountability to every dollar that gets spent in marketing.
Yeah, you can measure engagement on a much higher gradation. Well, and that to me is fascinating.
And that data-driven advertising really sets it up for what your modern audience is. Now, What do you guys do, if at all, anymore, as far as your traditional media, your radio and TV advertising? Do you do anything when it
We
comes to
do.
that?
We do.
You do.
So we do very little radio, to be honest. For TV, we do a little bit. We do TV when it's special TV. Um, the one thing I think this may be the fifth or sixth year that we do around Rockefeller tree lighting. We sponsor that. We're a local sponsor, so we do that in about 15 markets. And we do it, first of all, the timing's great. It's that week right after Thanksgiving, as
Hmm.
everybody's thinking about the holidays. People sit down to watch it. The people that do sit down to watch it, you're in that positive, you feel good. You're thinking about the holidays. You don't sit down and watch a tree light in a bad mood. You feel good and you're already starting to think. You have maybe a piece of paper. You're starting to take and start making your holiday list because you're in that mode, or at least you will be if you are not at the beginning of the show. And so we do sponsor the tree lighting. We do a bunch of spots leading up to it. Just on that's on NBC, where we're the sponsors of the tree lighting, and then it runs. And then we also will run some TV spots during the holiday program and throughout NBC. So if there's a Michael Bublé Christmas special or country music Christmas special, we'll do that. It's a Wonderful Life. We'll run some TV commercials. Again, they're they're targeted to that time period. And so that's the only true traditional we do. Then we run other TV, but it's to the viewer it may feel like traditional TV, but it's not quite traditional. It's very targeted. Um, today's today
Is this kind of more in the digital space?
This is the digital space. You don't even know
Yep.
it's a digital space, right? You don't realize it's the acronym for is OTT, right? Where you're getting targeted with a TV commercial, because I need to target a male of this age, who may be in the market for something, and so you will be served that commercial. So we will hit some viewers, whether it's on Peacock or on Hulu, so to several different places we can hit, and they could be on traditional programs, right? Nothing insane. So we'll do that. And then we try and run some programming around like the Latin Grammys, which we're a sponsor.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I just want to point out
Yeah.
that I think Joe and I are a couple of real big Bulova collectors, and I don't believe either one of us has gotten any Bulova advertising on any of the
Well,
stuff that we've watched.
You're in the wrong market.
no,
Yeah.
that's actually we have this argument in the office all the time. Okay, so obviously money's always limited.
Right.
We're not swimming in money. So the point is, do you target the core consumer, meaning you too, which we know you'll purchase anyway, or do we target a growth market?
We're not their target market.
You're
We've
not
already
right.
been hooked. So
You're hooked, right? You're hooked. You're on the drug already. You are hooked. So this is part of the conversation. We have this all the time. And in particular, the Bulova brand is extremely strong. I'm very fortunate that if I say let's put the $100 on the growth market and let's look somewhere else for a minute, instead of doing it to our core market, our core consumers don't walk away from us. They still stick with us. So that we're quite fortunate. So we have been targeting a lot of this growth market, especially in some of the platforms, whether it's an Instagram or it's on a YouTube videos. There's so many different ways that can be cut up. So much information. We're looking at, I think, and not to spill every secret of the brand, of the marketing brand, but there's a couple growth markets we're looking at, whether they are younger, right, 23 to 35, or 35, 36. We're looking at that, both male and female. Looking at the Hispanic market because it is growing here in the U.S. So just for the pure fact that it's a growing market and there's more disposable income every day in that market. So those are all important markets. In addition to that, I think the Bulova brand has always been very strong in South America. So when many Hispanics come here to the U.S., they bring their love, they bring their recognition for the Bulova brand. And so we want to make sure we stay top of mind. We appreciate it. So there's different markets we're really trying to lean in. Our core consumer is fabulous. We are so fortunate that we get to, look elsewhere and say, let's continue to grow, or let's try and grow our other consumers. But
And
yes,
not to cut you off.
no, I like
We'll get into, you guys have a relatively new ambassador, which was a genius marketing move, and we'll get into that in a second. But I'm curious, what percentage wise is the difference between your traditional advertisements, your papers, your TVs and radio spots versus your digital marketing, so your YouTube videos, your Instagrams, your Facebook and things like that? Where do you guys kind of focus the two? Like,
Yeah. So right now we're about 30% traditional, which is quite high, right? We
wow,
usually,
that's that much.
yeah, and the reason why is because we are so proud of being an American New York brand, right? And just being real Americana, and not to say that we don't look globally, as I was just mentioning, that South America is important. So we are very proud of our New York City Rockefeller tree lighting sponsorship. So that's one of the things we don't want to step away from. And it comes at a premium cost, right? We're not just buying spots at any time of day. We're buying at a specific time. So that kind of pulls some of the dollar away. But yeah, we're that much. That's right.
Interesting. And I think the digital marketing kind of lends to the age group that you're trying to reach a little bit. The more younger, dare I say, kind of modernized group of people who are involved in the online, the forums, the Instagrams, the Facebooks, and things like that. There's a lot more of, I'm not trying to offend anybody by age,
No.
but there's a lot of a older group that is starting to learn how to do digital stuff,
Right.
because quite often connect with a lot of the older crowd through the Instagram and that, and they are on there just like everybody else, posting their stuff and learning how to do it and having chats and getting involved in the forums and things like that. So that just seems to be where a lot of people are living, is in the digital space.
Right. And I think it gives you a chance to really be as targeted as you want. Right. So everybody's everybody knows that the Instagram means a little bit younger, right, than a Facebook. But even Facebook is not quite an old audience. But then you have a YouTube, which is an everybody audience. And you have Pinterest, and now you have TikTok. And we were just having a conversation about some of the Reddit. So there's so many different, and then there's the display ads or video ads that can run on any website you may look at, whether you're checking the weather or checking the news or checking on fashion, right? So there's so many, but they're all digital, and none of those ads should be hitting you by accident. They should be hitting you because
and there's a reason why when you sign up for these accounts, it asks you what your birthday is and where you're at geographically and things like that. I mean, this all comes into play. They're not,
internet's not free.
Yeah, exactly. It's all for target advertising, and if you search a Bulova watch, if you Google it, it will start to pop up in everything that you do. It pops up in your feed, it pops up in your emails, it pops up on your YouTubes, it pops up everywhere. It's far more complex, I think, when you really dig into it than what a lot of people realize.
It is. So I'm fortunate enough that we have a great ad agency, and today's ad agencies are different than the original ad agencies. They're no longer the ad agencies that came in with the, you think of watching Mad Men, where they came in with the big slogan, right? It's a little bit different. You have an ad agency filled with, I'll be honest, with people half my age or younger, coming on, right? Who it's like they know their stuff. They're not messing around, right? And we have some internal, really smart people that it's about the numbers, right? And they're constantly doing it and they're checking it. And every day they can see what's working, what's not working, and if they need to tweak it on a daily basis, right? There's a portal that they log in every day, and if they see that the engagement is slightly lower on a particular ad unit, they can change it. They can change who it's targeting to. They can change what it looks like. They can change on an Instagram ad. What's the first visual you see if there's several visuals in it? So it really is smart people. Nothing is by accident. Nothing. It's no longer the days that I think this will work. No, that doesn't work. I can say I'm the old one in the department. I'll start off by saying, I think this is the right way to go, and then the younger team takes over and they go, no. So okay, I'll take it.
So speaking of things that work, Mark Anthony, that's working for you guys.
Yeah,
he is a man's man.
So
every guy wants to be him, and every woman wants to be next to him. And I've seen you next to him, Patty.
Yeah. So
yes.
let me take a step back and let me tell you what happened. So we were fortunate enough, a couple, 20, maybe before the pandemic, to get involved with the Frank Sinatra.
Yes.
And we're launching the Frank Sinatra collection 2020. I think we were supposed to launch that spring, the Frank Sinatra collection. And there was panic about how we were going to launch this. Well, everybody knows how the story went. Everything went great. Business was fantastic. The pandemic hit. It was great. It was amazing. And I never even had to leave my home. Great business. The watches were selling. And the Frank Sinatra collection was a great success. And I'm not sure what has been covered here on this podcast, but we do not sign on with something unless we feel that we're going to make it authentic. We were sponsors of the Frank Sinatra show in the 50s. When we reached out, both Tina and Nancy Sinatra were very excited about it. They pulled some of it that they were saying they remember their dad wearing Bulova watches. So it really was a great partnership from the beginning, and it still is. And so I remember sitting on a call, we're still all via Zoom, and I'm on the call with Michael and our company president, and we were talking about the success of it. And then we were talking about the strength of the Hispanic market, and just separately, not about Frank Sinatra, but separately. And he said, I would love to get the Frank Sinatra of the Hispanic market. So we thought about it, and that's where we ended up with Mark. And Mark has been, I think he's going to move in. He has been, I think of our initial contract we wrote with Mark, and I did not know what to expect. So I'll be honest, the contract said he must post one time or whatever. It was very detailed written. And that contract, it's trash because he has been such a partner to us. He is all in. Our first meeting we had with Mark, we went down to Florida. Michael, myself, Danelle was with us, and Danelle came prepared. And I remember Mark asking, wait a minute. And Danelle, as he goes, listen, I'm ready to start designing. What are some of the style cues, your favorite colors, your favorite numbers? And Mark said, wait a minute, you really want to know from me? This is a real collaboration. And we were like, yeah, that's why we came down. We didn't come down. And then he pulled out the book, The History of First book that I have behind me. And he asked somebody in one of his assistants to pull out the book. And I'm like, okay, let's see. this book. He pulled it out. It had so many foldovers. He knew
Oh,
exactly
that's
how
amazing.
to go.
Really?
He loved the Devil Diver, right? There was just, it looked so beaten up, that book. Loved it. From us, the brand, I'm like, who knows? And that was it. And then he takes out a piece of paper and he starts to design a watch right then and there. He wants to know, he said, Danelle, I want your number so I can text you when I have ideas. We were just teasing Danelle recently whether he's been texting. He goes, no, he never texts me, but he does want to see every design, right? So he's been a great partner. And I think it's transparent to people, right? And whether and not everybody, and I don't know whether you two are his followers or know every song, right? Even in his most recent years, he's been doing a lot of the salsa, and he's been doing all his music in Spanish. But his audience know that he's authentic.
Oh, for sure.
The other part that blows me away though is looking at that collaboration. A lot of times you see collaborations with artists, and it's like, okay. Yeah. But a lot of the watches that have come out of that particular collaboration is like, oh, yeah, okay. I like that. I would wear that. Yeah. And so it speaks a little bit about the way the designs go together, and a whole lot more about it, kind of his aesthetic, which I don't know, speaks to me, but I know I'm not in the majority in a lot of things. So
right. So we got some Mark Anthony, some Bulova style cues, and we combine them together because we know Marine Star is a great winner for us. He loves boating. We combine it. Maybe we did a little bit more of a vivid dial. The blue dial we did a little bit more vivid. We know the Machina works. We know orange is his favorite color. So we said let's put an orange strap, and that has worked. It's been a great sell. So I think by blending the two, it's been a great partnership for me on the marketing side, where you have to beg collaborators. I've seen people have a hard time, and I've seen people in the watch industry really have a hard time. They sign an artist, and a week later they get photographed wearing somebody else's watch.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's and I've seen that in the watch industry. Right. I've been here a long time.
Did you guys go into this knowing that he was a Bulova guy, quote unquote, or did it just surprise you when you went to him and he's like, oh, and then he pulls out, the book that everybody seems to have within reach?
He's not a Bulova guy to begin with, right? He knew the Bulova brand. He's a guy who grew up in Spanish Harlem, right? So he knew the Bulova brand is very important to the Latin community. So he knew the Bulova brand. But prior to us showing up at his office, he was no longer wearing Bulova watches. He was wearing higher price point watches. But what he appreciated, and the reason why we decided to sign this contract, was he knows his audience. He knows what his audience is wearing. He felt that this would be an authentic collaboration, right? He knew that the watch he was wearing at the time, and I'll say it here, he was wearing a Hublot. He was very famous for wearing Hublots. That was not the watch that his audience was going to be wearing. So when we had
I can guess what they were wearing.
Right. When we had the first conversation, he kind of looked around this community, not his current celebrity community, but his people, the people that go to shows. And he knew that the Bulova was the right brand for him. And he, no one had to go in and explain who Bulova was, right? There was something that, I know Bulova. I get it. I understand it. And from that day, nowhere in his contract does he say that he has to wear a Bulova. It's not in the contract, right? You can't really do that. You can encourage. And any photo you see him with a non-Bulova was taken prior to the contract, right?
It's really fascinating because I've been watching since that collaboration came out, and it was surrounding the Latin Grammys.
Right.
which he's done very well with. But you always seems like he is a very, very solid ambassador, and he seems to take his role really seriously.
Mhm.
It is like you really can't ask for anything better than that. Now, can you? Not honestly.
No, he is one of those people that says once you're part of the family, you're part of the family,
That's
right?
fantastic.
It's been, yeah, it is fantastic. So we're quite fortunate. Yeah. And I think this brings us along why we do several collaborations on the Bulova brand, right? With Frank Sinatra. We have the other Frank Lloyd Wright.
Right.
We have Mark Anthony. We have the Latin Grammys. And we found this special sauce, if you would call it, that works for the brand because watches are something that we love them, right? But as you said, most of your kids in your class don't wear them because you don't need to. We all have two steps away our phones, right? So, or somebody may have the Apple Watch, or many people, most people, let's be honest, have that. So we need to really instill the desire in people to buy the watch, the desire, right? Not the need. It's a desire. I want it. I want to feel like Frank. I want to feel like Mark. I want to, I want to have that, maybe I'll have a little bit of like that suaveness about whatever it may be that may make you think that you're getting a piece of something special. And whether it's on the Frank Lloyd Wright, a piece of art on your wrist, that's quite special. So that's where the collaborations come in. That's special, and they really do work for us. And we don't do anything insane. We still keep within Bulova's DNA, right? But we just add in that collaborator's sense of style.
Real quick, and totally off topic, it just
Yeah.
popped in my head. Are you over marketing for everything Bulova, including Accutron too, or is that a little different?
No, that actually that's a little bit different. My counterpart, one row over from me, Gail, she does the Accutron.
Oh,
But if
that's who
you have
Gail is. Okay.
suggestions, I'll be happy to pass them on.
I was just curious because Michael
Yeah.
comes and talks a lot that he's over both brands, and I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
they are covered under the same umbrella but are kind of
Yeah.
separate entities, and so I just
So
wasn't
they
quite
are
sure.
separate. So it's sort of like we're two separate people because it's actually quite a bit for me to do right now already as it is. But because the Bulova, um, Bulova, you can't separate Bulova and Actron.
No.
So whereas we really do try and still stick close with some of the things we do overlap, right? So we're not completely separate. We're just separate people, but we do kind of try and share as much information as possible. And sometimes we collaborate on many items, especially when we deal with collectors, people that are really know the brands. They know both brands, right? They don't necessarily, they maybe collect more of one piece versus the other, but they will have full knowledge, right?
But it's Bulova Accutron.
Right.
Yeah. So kind of moving on a little bit, like we talked a little bit about the Latin market and the fact that there's this motion towards the Latin market. What are the different markets that you're working to serve? Because like for Mike and I, we're both following the various Instagram accounts, and so you've got there's Bulova account, which is USA domestic for the most part. There's the European market, there's the Italian market, there's the German market, there is the Oceania market, there is a South American market, there's a Canada market. There's all these different accounts. What are the different markets that you really kind of focus in?
So we're the biggest market is the US market, and we're also the headquarters. So we share a lot of our assets, we share a lot of our information with the other markets. But every market does have their own, they know their own. Even if we look at, for example, the Italian market, even simply looking at their Instagram account, they are almost, they do not put any lifestyle. The watch comes first. I don't think I've ever seen a lifestyle image. And we communicate with what my counterpart in Italy all the time, and she may share some of the photography because, of course, I love some of the photography she has, and she'll take our watch photography, but she doesn't. For her, it's about advertising the product, not the lifestyle. And so every market has some differences. Whether if I'm looking at Mexico may have different holidays or different ways of doing things, but again, we try and fit. We all try and stay true to the brand, but I understand that there's differences. We last year, and I think now it goes to 3 years ago, we took on a new a brand tagline, Bulova, Bold at Heart. Prior to that, we're a history of first. And we decided to make the change because the history of first really talks about our heritage and some of the first moments we had, but we wanted to make it personal. So Bold at Heart is about your own personal statement. It's about the watch being bold, the bold releases we have, but also about you stepping out and having your moment. And that's great. And that seems like a very American thing to say, right? We're talking about ourselves. When we shared our new campaign worldwide, there was some hesitation, right? And I'm being on it, telling you everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly here. There was some hesitation because, wait a minute, you have a heritage brand. How do we stepping away from it? So it took some talking, and there is a place, and we did not step away everywhere from a history of first and completely. It's still who we are. We're first at TV. We're first with the tuning fork. We're first radio. We're first on many different things, but we just wanted to make this statement also, this Bold at Heart. So it's a constant sharing and a constant working through with our international markets. Make sense?
It does. It does. Looking at the difference in the advertising, you're completely right. And you can see that the Italian market is very much product focused. The Mexican market is very much, the watch is always on somebody. It's always, you're always looking at, there's an image. So it's more lifestyle. I mean, you see what's going on through Oceania, or through even Bulova Germany, Bulova Canada.
Yep.
There's a slight difference in the way that they're marketing things, just a little bit, but there's always that product focus. And so I always find it fascinating because Mike and I have collected items, and we're cognizant of what's going on in some of the other markets, and so we know that there are watches that are available in Europe that aren't available domestically. We know that there are, and so can you talk a little bit? What is your experience with what's available where, and kind of the why?
So when watches first get designed and we decide, Bulova as the brand decides to go forward with watches, we don't always go forward in the U.S. with everything. Like we also like to be careful. We don't like to release 100 watches a season, right? We feel that we are a special brand. Just dumping watches into the market is not what we're looking to do. So sometimes some watches do not get picked up by the U.S. market, which is the bigger market. And there are many times when we see the success of a particular watch somewhere else, and we go, Italy was right. You know what? That blue dial something is really fabulous. We need to pick it up. And a season later, we'll pick it up. Sometimes we're not able to because something may have changed or so on. But that's really how the mechanics are behind. When we look at the full line and we make decisions early on, there may be something where we decide we usually do the bulk of it, but there are some pieces that we say, oh, we should have. And then maybe if you guys see anything elsewhere and you go, you should have, how to find us to tell us you should have.
We've made a couple of mentions.
Okay.
Just throwing that out there.
Michael has all our requests.
You have a direct link to Michael.
So this is we could sit here for hours with you, Patty,
Yes.
and talk. I
Hopefully I
mean,
can
there's so
talk
many
through.
rabbit holes.
Oh no, this is fantastic. This has been so good.
Yeah. And I'm looking at the clock and I'm just trying to be conscious of your time here.
Yeah,
But just a couple more things to touch on, if that's okay, if you
you
got
got it.
a couple extra minutes. All right. Um, you guys, a couple months ago did kind of an influencer type low key advertising thing, and you collaborated with an artist, and I apologize because I forget the name, but when I say what it is, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You did probably 5 or 6 different types of posters. There was a Rat Pack,
Yeah,
there was a Lunar Pilot, there was the Jetstar, there was what else was there? There was a couple of them. Joe is
yeah.
going to dig his
Where do they
Oceanographer.
go? I got them.
the
Where the hell are they?
oceanographer, yeah, the
Yeah.
GMT. Joe
I
was
just
lucky
saw
enough
them. Damn it! But my
and
wife, whom
fortunate
I
enough
love, has moved them.
to get a set. I'm still waiting on mine to come. I know. uh, but I think that was really cool because they started to come out slowly.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are like, wow, that's neat. Where can I get one of those? Oh, that's really cool. And it was a cool way for you guys to just kind of quietly put your fingers out a little bit in kind of the influencer space because
Mhm.
that's basically who it went to my understanding, was influencers, media people, content creators, and things
That's
like
right.
that. So what kind of was the story behind that fun little bit?
So,
I got them. I got
you
them. They came
found
to
that.
me. Mike didn't get any. I got them. Just saying.
Oh,
Throw that out
yeah.
there.
No, you know what? As Michael, I made a circle. I made myself a note poster. Okay. So, uh, you know, as you would expect, the press is well treated, right? And there's sometimes there's some gifting around the holidays. Sometimes there's some gifting happens, and we thought about it, and we said, what do we send in the press? A bottle of wine? All right. Cookies? All right. So, TJ, who runs our PR and social in the office, who's a good out of the box thinker, came with this idea to me. And I tend to be in the box. I'm being honest with you guys here.
Mhm.
And I go, really, TJ? And he goes, no, trust me on this one. Let me go down this path with this artist. And he did this, started working on the artwork, and I loved it. In fact, I was like, I can see, not because I'm a Bulova geek, but I can see this artwork framed on and taken up one section of my wall. And this artist really felt like he was, for him, it was a great honor for him to do it. I mean, he really invested, he got the watches and he really got to know what each watch was, which makes such a difference. And so he did these posters, and we sent these posters to influencers and the press. And it was something different. And we got some fantastic coverage over it because they've all received their bottle of wine. They all received lots of things for the holidays. But to receive this and to give them a look back of what were our most important, and last year happened to be a fantastic year. I mean, we released the Lunar Pilot, we released the Oceanographer GMT
Mhm.
pack, the Jetstar. Like we had
So much
no
good stuff.
yeah, no problems trying to figure out. We had so many fabulous releases. So it was great. It was really great, and we keep getting asked for the posters, and I saw them on social. I saw also people trying to sell them for crazy amounts of money, also on eBay, and great for them if they get the money. And we're thinking about doing something again, going into some special stuff we have going on later this year.
With the same artist or
Mhm.
different with the because
Yeah,
that's the what
same
he Joe, do
artist.
you have them handy? Could you
I
hold some up?
don't. I don't.
No.
They got moved, and I haven't framed them yet because that's the
Uh
goal. Because
yeah.
they're phenomenal, and I can remember
Yeah.
seeing. I remember seeing like the Las Vegas one
Hmm.
spoke to me. The New York was really good, but it was the Lunar Pilot that
Oh,
was
that's
the
what it was.
first.
Yeah, the New
It was the
York where
first one that I
Bulova
saw,
was
and I was like,
spelled out and the lights in the
"Oh wow!"
windows
Yeah,
and
and
yeah.
we had, funny, we're like talking about the Lunar Pilot. In the Lunar Pilot one, I don't know if you remember, there's like a pen, and I'm like, should there be a pen? And remember, you can picture all these conversations, or there's a pencil pointing as if there's a person, and you can picture all these conversations happening in the office. I'm like, TJ, does there need to be a, yes, of course. Anyway, but the artist did a fantastic job, really did.
Oh, they
Um,
turned out
No,
wonderful.
I thought they were phenomenal. And
Me
so cool.
I remember reaching out to the artist actually, because I saw it on one of the artist's feed. And I'm like, what is that? He's like, oh yeah.
Wait, you saw it on his feed before you saw it on our feed?
No, I saw it.
I mean,
came out. It was, I think it was simultaneous, and it may have come through. I may have seen his first, but yours was shortly after. Like it was
so
the same day.
Was it because he hashtag Bulova, or did you know the artist before?
I knew the artist.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I knew the artist. So I was following the artist beforehand. And it had come out, and I'm like, that's a what is that? And he was like, oh yeah, I've done this thing with Bulova. I'm like, that's nuts. And then
so that's like your two worlds coming together.
It is. It's really neat to see kind of like, you know, our circles are colliding.
Yeah.
That is target advertising right there. Look at that.
I'm in the right demographic, I guess. So
yeah, that's cool. If you guys are going to do more with that and more with that particular artist,
I thought those images
really
are really good. They're really good.
Very well. And good on TJ for you know coming up with that idea. That was very out of the box creative thinking. I will say that.
Like TJ. We do like TJ a lot. Gotta say.
Yeah. I feel like, and I don't know if TJ listens, and if he does, why do you like Joe better than me, TJ? I just want to know. I'll call you out on that a little bit.
I don't know if he's going to say he got lost in the mail or something. I'm not sure what he's going to say.
TJ likes Joe more. I don't know.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, 9:15 meeting, TJ.
Yeah. All right. So, well,
let's go. Let's veer a little bit. And so there's something that Mike and I have been following for a little bit, and it's happened on a couple of the forum posts, and it is a Bulova lunar pilot fake.
Okay,
we're gonna go. Let's dive into it. So,
not advertising related, but okay,
it's not advertising related. However, we're talking about marketing to a certain extent, and so we know the case shape is very close. The handset is not. The movement is wrong. And, you know, people have been doing a deep dive onto it. And you can find this.
In fairness, they used a Miyota movement.
They did. It's the wrong one. But
yeah,
regardless. And so the watches are available from a couple of different prominent online retailers. And so the question is to Bulova marketing. It's like, how do you deal with the fake? Which is let's face it, it's not a real common thing in the Bulova market, to be absolutely honest, and even in the vintage market to a great extent.
Yeah. So it's not something that's common. Usually you find fakes in the higher price point watches, right? So it was surprising to see. I remember when we first saw it, we all gathered, and of course, I think it was TJ, the first one that noticed, talking about TJ. But it is something that it surprised us, and particularly the Lunar Pilot is a very special watch for us. So we are trying to look to see about how there are some online retailers that are very popular, like you said, Joe, but they're not necessarily retailers that they're retailers that the whole industry does not love, right? So here, it's always been questionable how they get their hands on certain product, and now what the product is not even true. I guess on one end, I consider it a fantastic compliment, the fact that they're trying to make these fakes, but I also don't want somebody to purchase the watch and then the hands just start just hanging on, barely hanging on. They're not our watches, right? And so then I have to deal with them. This is new for our company, and we're just starting to roll up our sleeves. So I don't know that we have a real strategy yet. Just being completely honest with you.
Well, it's sort of new territory, right? And it's not like these are watches that are going to auction that are fetching up in the multiple $1 million process. We're looking at a $500 to $1,000 price point, right? And it's sort of like somebody who's counterfeiting nickels. It's like it might not really be worth entirely your effort on this aspect, because it's such an interesting market. It's such a small collector's market. Like the Lunar Pilot, for It is not the Speedmaster, and
It's
we know this, but
maybe what he's expecting to do is sell more units, right? Than he would with the Speedmaster. So although the Lunar Pilot, we try and also limit, like we do try and limit how many pieces we do make. A lot of times they're either special editions or limited editions, and they are of the higher price point. We try and limit. But again, it's not at the Speedmaster price point. So maybe he's thinking of getting, it's more of a quantity rather than the higher price point that he's trying to make up, or they are trying to make up. Maybe that's what the purpose is. Or maybe this won't work for them, and the Lunar Pilot buyers are really smart, and this fake won't succeed. I'm not quite sure where it's going to go.
it's an interesting question, because when you start looking at, like, you have the homage market, but then you also got the people that are making the fakes, and it's like, okay, how good are all of the things that go with that. But when you start looking at the fact that, like, the Lunar Pilot itself, as soon as you did just a slight little bit of digging,
yeah,
like, that's obviously wrong. And it's not like, you know, I need to know a whole lot about the watch. It's like, no, I can tell by looking at it that it's wrong.
Yeah.
So it was a fascinating discussion to see, and also to watch the watch community kind of rally around this aspect of that fake watch. And I was heartened by it just a little bit. It was a nice thing to see that, like, everyone's like, oh yeah, this is wrong. And
people are very protective, right?
they were very protective of the brand and of the legacy. And I think that's, you know, that's always nice to see within a community, community, and within our community in particular.
That's fabulous.
Well, and I think it's an exercise in you get what you pay for kind of thing, right? Because it kind of irked me a little bit, because these, I believe, were selling for about $180 online, which, if for a watch that retails at $895 or $995 or whatever that price point is, right around there, if you're going to try and buy one for $180, it's like, well, the watches are overpriced, and I don't want to pay that much money for one. And I got one for $180. What are you going to
They're
say
not
now?
that overpriced.
Good luck
Yeah,
with that.
it's like, well, look what you got for your $180. You know,
Yeah.
you get what you pay for, kind of thing. You took a gamble, you got burned. There's really nothing else that you can say about it. So it kind of bothered me a little bit, because people want the Bulova quality, but for whatever reason, there's that small segment where they just don't want to pay up for it, and then are the first to complain. Well, I didn't get a constantly ticking the second hand on my watch. Well, this is because you ended up getting a fake. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
you know, and I don't know how else to say it, but just buy the real thing. Pony up the extra dollars, because it is worth it. What you're getting for, and it's like Joe said, it's not that overpriced, and they're really not overpriced. They're really kind of priced right where they should be at for what you're getting.
We're not, look, like you said, we're not at the Omega price point, right? We are reasonably priced, and there are different price points to the Lunar Pilot. Some are more expensive than others. So there's a little bit of room to be. I have a question. Anything you guys want to tell me to send back up to the mothership, to the home office?
We can start with the Sea King. Start with the Sea King. So
that's a good place to start.
It's a good place to start, because looking at the Sea King line, and it's the Sea King line, it's the Clipper line, it's anything with the whale on the dial. Those watches were accessible. There were a ton of variants. Case sizes were different. Movements were different. Applications were different. There were a lot of different options when it came to that. But when Mike and I have looked at some of the current Timex offerings, it's like, it's a place. There's a market. The issue shows up with a Miyota automatic movement, because most of these are hand wound. So it's the case dimensions, the case size, and you look at that thinness of the case, which as soon as you throw an automatic on, it raises it by 8 to 10 millimeters, which puts it kind of outside of that sort of that range of a sort of a grab and go watch. But we have been a proponent of and a fan of the Sea King line forever.
Okay.
close to forever.
Okay.
And I swear to you that this was not a planned moment, but we just
Okay.
both happen to be wearing Sea Kings or have them at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
So for us, I know that feels like a missed opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's the case or not, and whether that fits into the marketing scheme and the plan for the brand as it moves forward, that's not our we don't get to make that decision. That's your decision. So we'll just sort of
Well,
shove that off on the higher ups.
And I apologize, Patty. I feel like my colleague has misunderstood the assignment.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
No, I kind of asked an open question, so it could have been anything, right? The assignment.
Okay, all right. Way to save Joe's back there.
I am not a teacher, so I guess I should have been a little bit more direct, but I actually did not have a direct question. It was kind of an open assignment.
Well then, Mike, why don't you interpret the question and show me how I'm wrong?
Well, okay, I will. And we had, gosh, this was going back, I think, to either the first or second time that Michael was on. He had made mention of a traveling Bulova museum. And if that's not an outreach and hands-on marketing, I don't know what else is.
Yeah.
So is that still something that's being discussed? Is that something that's actually going to happen, or has that kind of died? And is that something we need to run up the chain again? Because
No.
I think so many people see pictures of the Bulova Museum and some of the watches in the cases and the wall that's behind the cases and that. And a lot of people think, oh, I can just go there, and you really can't.
I know.
It's not an open to the public type of thing, and understandably so. I mean, it's in your guys' offices.
Yeah.
But to have something like that brought to the people, I think would be extremely, extremely cool. And talk about a tool for teaching the history of the brand. I mean, that's just phenomenal.
So we have so much that we can show and really bring around to different places. First of all, you don't know how many times we get phone calls from the desk down at the entrance of Empire State Building. People who thought
I can imagine.
they could just show up and see the museum. And, kudos for them for trying. They don't know that they can't, and I wish they could, but it can't have people come into a work environment. So we are going to open up a small museum. We recently opened up a CWA, Citizen Watch America store on Fifth Avenue. And on the third floor, by September, we'll have a museum open up there.
Oh, wow.
So that's very important, because then we will have that museum open to the public probably about 2 days a week.
Wow.
5 days, it is New York City. You can't just keep it unmanned. So we will have it open maybe a couple days a week. So that's step one. Step two is, yes, we are working on the mechanics behind the traveling museum. And the traveling museum can be at a special event. It could be in conjunction with something that's happening at a retailer. It could be, let's say the Latin Grammys. It could be, in a downtown area. So we are working on it. We are getting close to a big anniversary year for us.
So a little bit.
It must happen. Maybe it must happen.
And see, the Latin Grammys happen in LA. Oh, this is so good.
No, well, actually, the Latin Grammys, they have not decided exactly where it's happening yet. As of Friday, they still have not decided.
See, you're bursting my bubble, Patty.
I'm so sorry.
See, that you know what that means? That means it's going to happen in Florida. It's going to happen closer to Mike than it is to me. It's going to be Disney World, not Disneyland. This is not okay.
Well, see,
I am unfortunately.
And we've discussed this off air. Patty is more of a fan of Disney World than Disneyland.
I did discuss it, but I don't make these calls. These are much bigger than this. But yeah, so the Latin Grammys is not decided as of Friday. But yes, so the travel museum is important. I think the hard part will be, once we do the travel museum, how do we decide what goes in it, right? Do we do the museum?
We can help you curate that.
We got this. We got this.
Like, what's the story? Like, we can't bring the whole museum along, so we'll have to pick it out, right? So yeah.
Absolutely not. But I think that there, like, if you look at just going off of the history of firsts,
Mhm.
that's a fantastic place to delve into.
Right.
And that kind of sets you up with a very solid
Right.
base, and building off of that becomes kind of interesting. But man, yeah,
Yeah.
that's so interesting. Gosh, that's a fascinating discussion.
Yeah.
And for those who aren't aware of the size of the museum and how many watches you guys have, and if you're kind of oversee the museum, what's the number? How many watches do you guys actually have? And it's not all on display. And
No,
if anybody's seen it, there's drawers underneath the cabinets.
Yes, there are a bunch
Full
of
of stuff.
We have stuff stored in our museum area in the one room that we have, and you can see videos we have on YouTube of the space. We also have things in different cabinets among our offices in the Empire State Building. We also have items stored at a temperature controlled facility, right? Some packaging is very careful because it is it's paper packaging.
Right.
Or sometimes some of that fabric, that satin fabric that the packaging came in, especially the Art Deco time period. So that's all has to be in that temperature controlled areas. We also have some stuff in a larger area. So like I have Artie's desk, Artie Bulova's desk. So like these significant,
Wow.
right? So those are stored in a different place. So we have different things stored in a couple of different places. But we have about, and these are not watches, these are, I'm going to say, artifacts. We have about 5,000 artifacts and about 9,000 digital artifacts. And
that's nuts.
So means if we see a photo somewhere and we need to record it, because if we ever need it for research, or if there's a video recording or a digital voice recording, like when you mentioned early on the call, the record for the caravel, and made a notation. I'm like, I have to go into our database and look it up, right? And everything in our database, we have an archivist who is on top of things. Nothing goes by without her checking, and she logs it in. So if I do even the simplest search, if it's there, if it's somewhere, it's going to show up on the database. But very important. Because like you mentioned the Sea King, if tomorrow I convince somebody in product development to make it, we need to make sure we have all the information.
There's a bunch.
Yeah, so that's important, because if we're true to it, we have to be true to it, or people in your community will let us know if we're not being true to it.
Well, it's true. And it's also really interesting when you look at what has been going on through the archive series and the choices that have been made through the archive series. You know, Mike and I have been following that since the first analog shift with the Devil Diver and the surfboard and the parking meter.
That's right.
But then all of a sudden you've got, the A17, or I'm sorry, the A15 reissue of the Navigator watch. You've got the military and the hack watches that show up. Then so you have the mill ships, which came out of nowhere, and no one saw that coming. And that got released, and it absolutely blew me away, because I knew
expect that either.
I knew the story of the watch. Like I had been following the story of the watch, and I knew Adam from a bunch of different forums. Yeah, and I've been following him for a while, and so I knew that it was a contemporary of the Blancpain and all of the things that go with that. But all of a sudden, for that watch to be released, is like, it's to me, it's really interesting. And then also with the what was the one on the Queen's Gambit?
The ladies, American Girl. Sorry,
American Girl, right? Yeah. Which also completely flummoxed me, and I thought that was a fantastic release. That there are these pieces that are coming out, and there's this delving into the archive and looking into the archive. It's like, what is available, what would be good. And so kind of leading us into our sort of our inset of questions is like, it's a big anniversary coming up.
Yeah, soon. It is.
Is there a hint you can share?
I am telling you that I'm not sure if I'm going to sleep the next the latter part of this year going into next year. We have
Yeah.
such amazing, amazing things, amazing releases coming up, right? But it's just also amazing moments to celebrate the brand. And we're fortunate that everybody truly values the history of the company, and even our parent company, values it. That's the one thing we're quite fortunate that we are left to our own devices in a sense. So we are there in New York City and we get to make the calls, and we're really going to celebrate it in a special way on this big anniversary, because I don't know anybody else who can say they've been around for these many years here in the US continuously. So, and we're going to let everybody know about it. That is my job if I am to succeed. So,
Yes, indeed.
yes.
And looking forward to it. And also, like we've talked off air, you cringe at some of the stuff that Michael lets out of the bag, and he's fantastic to have a relationship with, because he's very honest, he's very open. He really doesn't hold back, and
No.
he's lent a lot of insight as to what's going to happen for the anniversary, and just trying to get everybody hyped up and excited
Right.
about it.
But he hasn't shared squat. We don't know what's coming.
Oh,
Damn it.
no, he has to.
What has he shared, Mike? What did I not hear that I should have heard?
Variations of the mill ships he has discussed. You guys have stuff in the works for that. The
That's
Devil
great.
Diver,
Yep.
the lunar pilot. He has talked about when we launched the lunar pilot with you guys.
Yes.
That you had meddled with different colorways, and
Mhm.
I mean, so there's a lot of stuff to come, and I feel like a lot of this is going to come out. For the 150th, we're going to see some really cool things.
Yeah.
New stuff, and different variants of what's existing, and things like that. So
I think so. There's going to be some fantastic watches coming out, but I think there's also going to be the cornerstone of it is we are working on a documentary.
that too. That's right.
I
He
Yeah,
was
that's
talking about that when he went to
you,
Japan and brought the film crew with him, and that
right,
him
you need
and
to
Jack
you need to
Forrester,
tell
and
the story. You really
yeah.
need to tell the story, and so that's important. And we need to spread the word and just really share. So that's important.
Gosh, that is something. And we have talked with everybody that we have on. We've talked about, oh, we're going to make it there soon, and oh, we're going to make it up there, and it always seems hard to make it up to New York, and with your guys' schedules and our schedules, and but if you guys do some kind of a screening with that, I think that'd be a trip worth making,
No,
to see that.
Hashtag soon.
soon, yeah. I'll have to share dates. I don't know that they work for school teachers, but I'll share dates.
I can probably make it work.
Okay.
I got vacation time. I'm just saying.
Okay. No one needs
Yeah.
to know.
So we're kind of at an end here. So let's sort of wrap it up, and we do sort of our last call, and it's just whatever it is that you want to talk about, anything that's happened kind of during your week, or any moments that are things you want to share. So Patty, we'll let you go first.
What's happened during the week? No, I think what's happened, I'll tell you, and I don't know when this is airing, but from the moment it
Goes out a week from tomorrow.
week from tomorrow, so expect either it just launched or about to launch any minute, is a new Marine Star with a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Marine Star with the new precisionist movement.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. We've talked about those too. Yeah,
Yes,
I know
so
exactly
it's
which one you're
happening
referring to.
right now. And it just really, the case of the watch is absolutely beautiful. Just special, the dial colors. There's one that's a beautiful yellow, and you would think, what? No, it's quite lovely, a bronze case. And then the movement, the movements, the precision movement. So it's kind of
That's gonna be lovely. Oh, that's fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, looking forward to it. Definitely.
Yeah.
Mike, what do you got?
I'm dealing with car issues. Remember a couple months ago, you were having all your issues with your car, Joe?
Yes, I replaced an engine. Thank you very much for reminding me.
Yeah. I'm dealing. So my car is 10 years old. However, it is so technologically advanced for what it was when it came out. It has equipment and functions and options and that some of your high-end stuff didn't even have for years after that. I'm paying the price. There's so many computers, there's so many modules. I have an electronic operating trunk, opens and closes by itself, does the whole thing. That module has gone bad. And because it has gone bad, it has stuck in the loop of trying to tell the main computer that it is not fully closed. And if I leave it sit overnight, I come to a dead battery. So I had to disconnect that computer, which is freaking out all the lights on my dashboard right now. Call the dealership, was told that the part is obsolete. Like, how do you not support? You guys have sold hundreds of thousands of these. How do you not support these cars anymore? Oh, well, we just don't. I'm sorry?
You can't be the only one that's having this problem.
I can't be the only one that's having this problem. That's exactly what I thought. So I had to go down the rabbit hole of decoding part numbers and finding a different model that uses the same module. And I had to order one and I'm waiting for it to come in. It's a whole thing. And it's not even plug and play. I can't get it, plug it in and make it work. I then have to take it to a dealership and have it programmed specifically to my car.
Wow.
This is the headache that I'm going through right now. So hopefully by the time this comes out, everything will be taken care of. And I can live without a power operating trunk. I just can't live with a dead battery every single day.
Yeah.
So
Fair.
Yeah, that's where I'm stuck. It's not an engine replacement, but it's just as frustrating.
Well, my last call is for Patty. You mentioned that you're just at about 20 years this year of working with the company. Normally, that would call for a watch. That would be an appropriate gesture. That would be appropriate. What watch would you have? You've got the whole history of the brand.
The whole history. Oh, wow, that's really tough.
I know. That's why I thought I'd ask it at the end. Throw you on the spot.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I mean this is going to oversimplify it, but I probably was thinking of getting myself, and then you're going to say, really, after 20 years? My next watch, I want to get one of the hack watches.
Really?
I
Interesting.
have dressier watches. I love the bigger dials, but they're too big for me. I'm only 5'1", can't tell that from the screen. So, I think the hack watch is just that perfect size. And, then you can put different straps with it. And I know you guys have had strap conversations here on this thing, and I really do love it. There's the blue dial or maybe the original hack. So that's kind of, you bring it back to the basics.
That is a fantastic answer. I don't know anyone who would question that. That speaks to you as a member of the watch community. It speaks to you as a historian of the brand. But man, that's a great answer.
That's my answer. You put me on the spot, but that's really what I was thinking.
But it's that watch is so good. Like the watch that won the war and everything that goes with it, but still everything about that.
Guys, lots of fun. I didn't know how I was going to spend an hour and a half. We are into 2 hours. I don't know where it went.
And it goes by so fast. And every single time this always happens. We always try to keep it at a certain point, but the conversation just going, there's just so much that we can uncover. Yeah. So Patty, again, from the bottom of our hearts, if it wasn't for you and wasn't reaching out, we wouldn't have the relationship with the brand. We genuinely appreciate that. I know our listeners and our viewers appreciate it because they get to connect with you guys, through us. We have a lot of Q&A sessions where we take questions from them, and everybody likes to get involved. So we're probably overdue for another Q&A again. I can't thank you, enough for taking the time out of your Sunday afternoon and spending a couple hours with us and just, talking everything that you have. Thank you so much.
Thank
very
you.
much.
I appreciate it. Thank you. You guys do it out of pure love, and I appreciate it. We appreciate it. We all. I mean, when we say Joe, Mike, we don't need to say last names when we talk about you guys in the office. So
Oh.
Oh, they talk about us in the office, Joe.
we do.
Yeah, but that
the
doesn't mean a
meetings
positive. Hang on.
Tuesday morning meetings are a real
watch that
thing.
one. Did you hear what they said this weekend? Oh my
yeah,
God.
exactly. And I know what Michael says. Oh, I bet you Michael's talking about Timex again. Oh goodness.
It did come out.
Yeah, see, I knew it.
Well, Mike, here we are. How do we get in touch?
Joe, this evening, you, Patty, and myself, we make up the Spring Bar Podcast. You can find us on Instagram at the Spring Bar Podcast. You can email us, thespringbarpodcast@gmail.com. On a personal level, I am 120 clicks, all spelled out, one long word, 120 clicks. Joe?
I am Watch Taylor Youth, all one word. Patty, do you have Instagram? Do you have social medias?
I do, but I don't post. I spend my time.
You know what? That's completely fair. You can try to search for Patty at Citizen Group, and she will not respond to any of your entreaties whatsoever. But I suggest you send a pigeon. But it is New York; they might get lost. You never know. Unless you have access to the Empire State Building. Good luck, and good luck to you all.
Thank you.
And until next time, I know my glass is empty.
Oh,
Cheers.
I haven't had. Cheers.
Oh, cheers. Cheers.